Going to Kansas City. If I could, I could.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the fourth episode of Choppin It Up with the Cleavers. My name is Emmanuel Cleaver III.
My name is Emil Cleaver.
And we want to make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Every Tuesday, we drop a new episode. You can also check us out most places you get your podcast. Chopping It Up with the Cleavers. So, here we go. We have one topic we're gonna dive into and talk about a bit, but I just wanted to bring up, we haven't talked about Brittany Griner, who is WNBA player, detained in Russia. She was caught bringing some cannabis oil. And of course, they arrested her and she's been detained. So the U.S. Department is trying to gain access. But of course, I think Russia's using this as a negotiation tactic. So Definitely. It's pretty rough.
Yeah, I feel sorry for her over there. She just wanted to go over there and play ball. WNBA players don't make a lot of money, so she went over there to try to supplement her income.
They make more money. A lot of them make more money overseas than they do in the WNBA.
Yeah, so she went over there and
it's rough.
And it's rough. They have her. Hopefully they're treating her okay.
Go ahead.
I would say any black person, don't go to Russia, Ukraine, or any of those Eastern European countries.
Well, you can't. Let's not say any Eastern European country.
I'm just saying I wouldn't.
Okay. You said okay.
I have no interest in going to any of those countries.
I want to travel. I want to see.
I want to travel too. Stuff. I want to go to Africa.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to go to the countries where they won't call you the N-word.
Yeah. Well, you live in the country. Yeah. I mean, this is.
That's why I want to go to a country where they don't call you the N-word.
Yeah. I'm willing to travel all over, not just Africa.
So you want to go to Russia?
If I had a chance, I would have gone. I mean, not now. Yeah, I'm not afraid to travel to European countries. But hopefully she's doing well. I used to watch that show. You ever see that show, Locked Up Abroad? I forgot and it showed people getting locked up in foreign countries. It's what you don't want to do. When you go overseas, wherever you are, you abide by their laws. I mean, you don't want to get caught up in another country.
Yeah. So
just prayers for her and her family. Hopefully things will work out fast. Of course, she's going to miss the start of the WNBA season, but hopefully she's doing all right and she'll be able to get back over here to the United States real soon. Switching. You may have heard about the governor of the state of Mississippi signed a bill that would restrict how much you could talk about race in the classroom. Let me throw this out there. You think he's a Republican or Democrat?
I think he's white.
Yeah. Okay, but Republican or Democrat? What would you guess?
I would guess he's a Republican. I'm not into the Republican Democrat thing. I
understand.
But I'm guessing he's a Republican.
Yeah, I'm just saying, yeah. So my purpose of asking for the question was, which one is more likely to do something like that?
Yeah, I don't think a Republican. I don't think a Democrat would do anything like that. Not that they wouldn't want to, but I don't think that I don't think that the party would allow it.
Well, that's the thing about it. There might be some, but the party as a whole. So let's talk about this. He wants to restrict, or I guess the Mississippi House and Senate, and the governor signed it. Mississippi has the largest percentage of African Americans than any other state. The largest percentage of African Americans.
They had a lot of slaves there.
Well, they had a lot of slaves there. They had a lot of slaves here in Missouri.
Yeah.
So he signs this rule. Here's the issue, the challenge, the problem that I have with things like this. One, they want to whitewash what really happened. How can you have an honest dialogue about the history of this country without talking about race? So they're going to have this stopwatch. All right, we talked about race 3 minutes, so we're going to talk about slavery, but you can't mention black or white from here on out. It's silly.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's not like schools ever taught critical race theory. I mean, I didn't learn anything about Malcolm X in school.
I went to Catholic schools.
So? I mean, it's part of history.
I know, yeah.
What black person did we learn about at Our Lady of Lourdes?
Probably Martin Luther King.
Yeah,
I'm sure
Martin
they
Luther
brought him up.
King, Rosa Parks.
Yeah, a lot of folk growing up, especially in our era, you grow up thinking Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks are the only black folk that did anything. And maybe that's why we pay so much homage to Martin Luther King, but there's so many others.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's black people's fault. I mean, I've had conversations with black people where they said, well, I don't know why they won't teach us that in school. And my thing is, it's not their responsibility to teach you your history.
Well, yeah, I get what you're saying, but it is their responsibility to teach history, and we shouldn't separate it. Like African American history is somehow different than American history. It's American history, period.
Yeah, it is. But again, I've never learned black history, so to speak, in American history in any of my classes. It wasn't until I got to college where
HBCU
black people were I guess discovered in America. But yeah, race has never been talked about. I mean, the only and black people, we need to expand our horizons, because the only 5 black people we talk about is Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks. Well, I guess the 2. That's it.
A few others. Yeah. Now that I do agree with. Black folk, there are some great civil rights pioneers, leaders, other than just those 2.
Yeah, we have a long history, and people, not just civil rights leaders,
but going back,
but people who helped shape this country. And so we have to start ourselves educating our people. We can't expect the schools to do it. Yeah, and they should be teaching history, but like I said, I've never been taught history. The only black people I learned about was Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks. I'm trying to think, was there any other black person we learned about 1st through 12th grade?
I don't think so. I don't remember any. All that was outside the classroom.
I think we learned about one.
Who?
Didn't they talk about? No, they didn't talk about it.
No, that was learned outside the classroom.
Yeah, so it was pretty much Martin Luther King. Yeah.
But let me go this way. So they talk about critical race theory, because I've been in school board meetings in Lee Summit where they're beating down critical race theory. They're like, okay, this teaches that one group is superior over another and one group is inferior. And I'm like, come on, people. The problem that we have in the United States, it comes from people hearing somebody say something, and then they take it and run with it without fact checking to actually see if there's some merit behind what they're saying. That's not at all what critical race theory is all about. So I'm saying something we said, I think, in week 1. Read some books, people. Read a book every now and then.
Idiocracy is sweeping America.
Critical race theory does not teach one group is superior. In fact, it teaches just the opposite. And one, I have to say, critical race theory, again, people, is not curriculum. It is something incorporated into curriculum to say how race and racism shaped and impact the society that we live in. And all you have to do is look around and see that race has played a significant role.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there are a group of people who are trying to pretend like it didn't happen. If it didn't happen, if you don't talk about it, it didn't happen. So I think that's the major thing that's going on in this country. I mean, there are a lot of and I will say Republicans who are scared that the country is changing. The country is no longer looking like they want it to look. They're becoming the minorities very quickly. So they're doing everything they can, changing voting districts, trying not to teach race theory in schools.
No, teach history.
Teach history, I guess. I mean, it is
just history.
You just have to teach the truth.
Yeah, that's the problem. There's a name to it. Just teach history. Just tell the truth about history.
Yeah, I guess that was a mistake calling it critical race theory. Should have just called it history.
Well, critical race theory came out of, it was some Marxist theory. That's perhaps why a lot of people don't like it, because it did come out of some Marxist ideology. And I read it a while ago, and I forgot. I can't name it offhand. But I was at this banquet, and this nationally known journalist was speaking. And he was telling this story about basically, highlighting Eli Whitney and the cotton gin. And he was like, before then, he said this. It was craziest thing I ever heard. He's like, before then, the planters in the South would just have to pick the cotton themselves.
He said
the planters.
He's calling I'm guessing that the slaves are planters.
Yes. That's what they want to teach, to take race out of it and just say the planters, that these people somehow, they chose to plant and pick cotton from sun up to sundown.
Well, how did he say that they got over there?
You don't teach that.
They don't go that far. It's not that deep.
Say that. Because if you say how they got there, then you have to deal with this issue of race. So this governor in Mississippi, I guess, and the House and the Senate, they don't want people to learn the truth. So Mississippi education.
So what can black people do, or white people who want the truth out there? What can they do?
Well, I mean, it was the elected officials who put this in place. So, I mean, one, I'd say you have to vote. Although I know
you ain't never gonna have the right numbers in Mississippi.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it's always gonna be that strong. I mean, I'm sorry. Mississippi is one of the most racist places in the world, and it always has been. It always will be, probably. I mean,
well, I'm gonna say Missouri might be more racist than Mississippi.
It's a tough battle. But I'm gonna go ahead and put Mississippi first. Missouri's up there, though. What are the top five races?
So I don't know. They said that the state of Missouri has more hate groups than Oklahoma, Kansas, Iowa, and Nebraska combined.
What about Mississippi?
Well, we're just talking about Kansas City. It was an article in the Kansas City Star a few years ago. I mean, Mississippi is Mississippi. I'm talking about Missouri. So we can't beat up on Mississippi. Missouri has hate groups.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't saying Missouri was all kumbaya, but yeah, we don't have I was about to say we don't have the history like Mississippi, but we have a pretty bad history here. I would say Missouri's probably in the top 5. I'm gonna go ahead and throw Boston in there.
Hear a lot about Boston. That's the city, though. You talking about states?
Well, so. I mean, they're big city. We can't put the whole state in there, but Boston, if we go by cities, Boston is in there. So I mean, I don't know what can be done. People have to vote, but you have Republicans changing the voting districts so that they can win more seats.
Gerrymandering.
So I mean, I think we need to vote. We have to have elected officials in there who are fighting for us, but still, I mean, people who aren't elected need to do something. I mean,
people have to say something about it. So I've said for years, it has to be more than just black people talking about racism. I mean, whites, allies have to say something. I say the same thing when it comes to discrimination against women. It can't just be women saying something. Men have to say something about it. So it has to be talked about. And we have to show up in school board meetings and voice our concern, because that's a battle. What happened in Mississippi, that battle is taking place all over this country, where they want to eliminate teaching the truth. Can't teach the truth. Yeah. So somehow these black people got over here. They came over willingly and served willingly on plantations.
Yes, master. We sure do like picking this cotton.
They willingly did that. I mean, that's basically what the next generation might learn.
So which states have this? I mean, I know Mississippi, Texas.
It's something that is happening all over. So it's not just Mississippi. It's something that everybody has to talk. I mean, we're in Missouri. No telling what's going to happen here with some of these wild and politicians that need to read a book. I think you ought to have some sort of reading comprehension. That's the key word, comprehension, before you can run for office.
Yeah. You
Have some tests.
You have to read a book and you have to explain what you read.
Absolutely. I remember that episode of Seinfeld where Elaine found Bizarro Jerry World, so she had these new friends. And she was talking to Jerry about her friends like they read books. And he was like, I read. And she was like, they read books.
Jerry.
Books. People read some books, not just the back of your cereal box. And every politician, you ought to have some comprehension. Because I look at some of these folk on TV, hear them on NPR. I'm like, man, do they have just the slightest ability to comprehend? Or they know they're making up stuff and they want to make it up?
Yeah, that dude Josh Hawley, man. I don't know what's wrong with that guy. I mean, who voted for him? I mean, I'm sure it was
Missouri.
Yeah,
we're in Missouri.
I know, but man,
once you get outside of Kansas City and St. Louis, maybe Jeff City, Columbia. I mean, Missouri's Texas. I mean, Missouri ain't the place outside of a certain.
You know who I think they should have made read a book and tell what they read is that what's her name, Green,
the politician.
Yeah,
what's her name?
the majority, so whatever, Marjorie Green.
Somebody.
Man, she's insane.
Yeah, they want to look into Ketanji's background. Hey, I think these elected officials, man, make them read a book. And then you got to explain it. And if you can't explain it.
The first chapter was about a man and he went downstairs.
I mean, come on, man. Critical race theory, big topic.
History.
All over. Yeah. So maybe that's the thing. Let's just call it history and teach all of history. Yeah. Teach how racism, the impact that it's had on this country. You see it everywhere.
That's because they got so many Karens on the school board, and Karens ain't gonna let that happen.
You remember it made national news in Lee Summit School District when one of the school board members said she was a blonde white woman who said blonde white women have it driving.
Yeah. I didn't know she was from Kansas City. That was Lee Summit?
Yeah, it's Lee Summit School District. Right here in the Kansas City metropolitan area. She's up here talking about being blonde, driving while blonde is just as bad as driving while black. And I don't believe in backhanding people, but if ever there was a time, I wish someone could have. I mean, and she's an elected official.
Oh, she was an elected official?
She was on the school board.
Some soccer mom. I'm a mama bear.
She probably is a soccer mom, but she's on the school board.
I'm a mama bear.
Again, especially if you're on a school board, you need to be able to comprehend. Can you explain something?
Yeah, but that's Lee Summit, though.
Well, I mean, it's not just Lee Summit. It's all over. It's all over. And I think you have to teach the history in terms of what happened to our inner city school districts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's American history. When white flight took place, it hurt a lot of school districts, like here in Kansas City. For those who may not know, for a while, black people couldn't live past 27th Street. Could not move past 27th Street. But when that came to an end, you know what happened? Folks started flooding south here in Kansas City. White folk, white flight.
Ran out to the suburbs.
White
then
flight.
Maybe the early 90s, black people started coming out here, and then the white people started going back to the inner city.
That's all. It's not just Kansas City.
I know, but I'm just saying.
So there's white flight and then gentrification that's taking place all over this country. So race and racism, I don't see how you cannot talk about it. It's history, folks.
You got to talk about it.
History.
Yeah, I mean,
I think about, we live in Jackson County. Jackson County, named after perhaps the most racist president in American history, Andrew Jackson.
And for some reason, black people last name.
Well, because, they took the names of presidents.
Well, we all have slave names.
Yeah. Unless your name is X, we all have slave
Or
names.
Kantanji.
That's not her last name, man.
But that's her first name.
So yeah, I think we're the slave owners that owned the Cleavers were German.
Yeah.
So
Germans. Come on, man.
Hey,
How we gonna let some Germans own us?
What you gonna do about it?
Man, nothing we can do about it. They owned us, man. I wish we could go back in history like Dave Chappelle in the time machine, man.
Yeah, go back with what we have and what we know now, man. It's fantasy world.
But I would torture them slave masters.
I'd go back on August 21st. When was it? August 21st, I mess up the date. When Nat Turner, the largest slave revolt in U.S. history, Nat Turner, happened on my birthday, August 21st. I'd go back and join that revolution.
You had to bring some more people.
No, it's not going to be just me. Cause
we don't bring a whole army back.
Caught. But man, that was.
Did we learn about Nat Turner in school?
Of course, come on. About a slave revolt?
Yeah, it seems
because they'd have to talk about slavery.
No, they did talk about slavery. I mean, it was mentioned when we were in school.
Yeah, okay.
It was mentioned that, hey, black, y'all were slaves. The end.
Being one of the only black folk in class. Isn't that right, Emmanuel and Emil? Is there anything you all would like to say?
Slavery was really bad. Black people were slaves and they couldn't do anything. Emil, could you tell us how do you think you would feel if you were a slave? Teacher, I don't know. I sure don't think I would like it though.
How do you guys feel? We're sorry. Should have made everybody on the playground apologize. Everybody on the playground apologize for
we had to tell
what your ancestors did.
We had to tell our racist stories that we encountered at Our Lady of Lourdes growing up in Raytown South. We encountered some stuff. We'll have an episode for that, but
racism.
Yeah, good old racism, man.
Yeah, and some police stories. Got some police stories.
Yeah, man.
Being stopped and harassed by police. That's for a later show, though.
So we're going to make that a show. When should we talk about all that?
I don't know. We'll find a date.
We'll find a date and we'll talk about that.
So the bottom line is, I would say to all parents, white and black, if true history is not being taught in the schools, then take it upon yourself like our parents did. We had to read about black folk in the summer.
That's where we learned about slavery and racism. We didn't learn about it in school.
No.
I don't even think I learned about the Holocaust in school.
No, I don't remember it ever being talked about all the way through high school.
But then, we did go to.
We went to
a private school.
But like you said earlier, I mean, it's school. Shouldn't matter if it's public or private education. The truth is the truth, and you have to teach history. That's why the United States is falling behind in education.
Dummies.
We don't want to teach the truth.
Man, I taught in schools, substitute teacher. Let me tell you a story why I know that we're getting dumber as a nation.
Dumb, man.
So I was teaching, I'm not going to say the name of the school, but the kids were acting up. So I said, okay, I'm not going to teach anything. I'm going to put it all on the board, and I want you all to write out the lesson. So these kids start crying. I mean, some of them are crying. These are fifth graders. And so it comes to find out that they couldn't write. I'm reading their handwriting. A lot of them were writing it backwards.
They couldn't write?
They could not write.
In the fifth grade.
And one of the girls said, I'm going to tell my mama. I was like, tell your mama.
That they had to write?
She told her mom, you think it's funny. She told her mom the next day the principal came in to me and talked to me. She was like, did you make him write? And I was like, huh? She said, did you make him write? I was like, yeah, I made him write the lesson because they weren't listening. She's like, you can't make him write.
The principal said you can't make him write.
She said you cannot make him write.
And then when you backhanded the principal, what did the principal say after that?
They can't write. They know how to type, but they don't know how to write. Not in this school. Some of them could write. I can see some of their parents, but most of them could not write what was on the board.
Then when you told the principal that he or she failed, then what did they say? You failed.
I didn't, man. That's when I knew that the school systems failed. I mean, schools are letting these kids pass and they can't even read and write. I mean, Because if you think about it, writing is becoming outdated.
Yeah,
but still, if the computers crash, you still need to know how to write.
Still have to know how to write.
But so I'm pretty sure that writing cursive is not taught in schools anymore.
So let me ask you this: they had to write. Do they have their individual computers?
Yeah, everybody had pretty much a laptop or a computer, their own. So. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's not in every school, but yeah, writing is a dying art. Yeah, so we are dumbing down. So it's not just we're not teaching kids race. We're not teaching them anything.
History. Yeah, so read, people. Read some books. Parents, read. And don't get all your information online unless it's from a credible source. Maybe that's another show. Where you ought to get your facts from.
If you read an article, see where the article's from. I mean, if it's from mumu.com, it's probably not legit.
I don't trust Mumu.
You know, I don't either. Yeah,
don't trust it.
Any website named Mumu.
But people do that. They'll get that mumu.com. Oh, guess what? It says that so and so is going to be the next president, and then the folk believe it. I'm like, where'd you get that information from? Yeah, but they put it out there, then other people start sharing. Next thing you know, there's a whole lot of folk who are believing information just because they read it online.
Misinformation.
Just because it's online.
Man.
All right, United States, we're going to get smarter. We're going to do more reading. We're going to move on. NCAA tournament is still going on. Last week, we talked about our favorite college teams of all time. Some of you all put some teams in there. Of course, that UNLV team for our generation, that was a big team, Fab Five. I heard some teams about Missouri, some of those Missouri teams with Anthony Peeler. Well, if you're from Kansas City, I mean, back in the day when Missouri with Anthony Peeler and some others, I can see how that could be your favorite team.
Yeah. Anthony Peeler is probably one of the top 5 greatest players to come out of MU. I would think.
He's got to be up there.
At one point, I don't watch college basketball as much anymore, but I know when he was at one point out, he would have to be one of the top 5. So yeah, I can understand that those Missouri teams, Derek Chivas,
Doug Smith.
Yeah, so they got some good teams.
Yeah. So, but this week, the tournament's still going on. Hopefully your bracket isn't busted. I know Kentucky lost early on. That messed a lot of folk up. But this week, we're going to name our top 5 college players of all time. Now, people, listen. We're not naming just the favorite basketball players. It's college. And as we know, as you all know, hopefully, some folk were better college basketball players than they were in the NBA. And some of the best NBA players of all time aren't necessarily the best college players of all time.
Yeah.
But we're naming our favorites. So you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Yeah, I went first last time, so you go first.
All right. Favorite college basketball players of all time. Number 5, I'm going to say Larry Johnson, that UNLV running back. But he was just so strong, man. He wasn't tall for a big man. I think about 6'6" is how they had him listed, which meant he was probably 6'5", 6'4". Yeah. But he was so strong, and I just appreciated that strength to be able to bang with some of the taller players. He was a man among boys a lot of time. Number 4 on my list, I went back and forth on this, just trying to make sure I thought of everybody that I used to love watching college basketball. And again, I haven't watched college basketball like I did back in the day. But number 4, I probably have to go with Danny Manning, Miracles.
Yeah.
That year that they won, I think it was 88, they won the national championship. The team wasn't packed with talent like some of those other KU teams were.
I think he was the only player that went to the NBA that year.
Yeah, or at least spent time in the NBA.
Yeah, I think he might have played around in there.
Yeah, for a while, but he was a leaper, but he was out of position in the NBA. So Danny Manning, and then I'm gonna get to number 3 is Grant Hill. He is one of my favorite players. Watching him play at Duke, I could see early on. I knew he was going to be something special in the NBA, and he for a few years, Grant Hill in the NBA was playing better than anybody else.
Yeah,
he
could have been one of the top 5 greatest of all time.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think he still deserves to be a Hall of Famer.
I think he is a Hall of Famer.
Is he? Did he make it?
I'm pretty
sure. He deserves it.
it.
So Grant Hill, number 3. Number 2 favorite player of all time, Kenny Anderson, Georgia Tech. That Georgia Tech, they were producing point guards because after Kenny Anderson came Stephon Marbury and then Travis Best. But Kenny Anderson had one of the greatest shakes, moves in college basketball history. Bobby Hurley, killed him behind the back, boom, 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 then scored. Man, Kenny Anderson was a beast in college. Had a pretty good NBA career. Number 1 favorite college player of all time, I said it last week, Mookie Blaylock, Oklahoma Sooners. He was a defensive specialist. He put up a lot of threes. That running Oklahoma Sooner team with Stacey King and some others, but I just like that he was able to. He was a thief. He would pick people's pockets
down.
So
he had a good
Blaylock.
NBA career too.
He
had a good NBA career.
Very good. Had a real good NBA career with the Atlanta Hawks. So that's my top 5. Mookie Blaylock, favorite player, college player of all time.
So my top 5 is going to be guard heavy. I played guard. We played guard. So number 5 is going to be Danny Manning. He took a cast of average players and they won it all. So Danny Manning, KU, 88. Number 4, I'm going to have to go with Kenny Anderson. Kenny Anderson was a beast. His ball handling skills were insane. Georgia, people wanted to watch Georgia Tech just to watch him because he put on a show. I mean, his ball handling was spectacular. Number 3, I'm gonna go with Stephon Marbury. Again, I like the guards. Stephon was a beast. I remember when him and Allen Iverson went.
That was a classic.
That was a classic
Everybody
game.
was waiting. Georgia Tech against Georgetown.
Man, that was a classic game. But I got to go with Marbury. Great player. Had a good NBA career. Great career over in China.
Legend.
He's a legend in basketball over in China. So he's number 3. Hold on, was that number 3? Yeah, that was. So number 2 is Allen Iverson. Got to go with Allen Iverson. One of my favorite players ever, NBA, college, wherever. But Georgetown, he was unstoppable. I mean, when he first came on the scene, he just looked so little, and he would just take over the game. Crazy hops. Just a great player. Changed the culture in the NBA.
There's you probably don't know, Ja Morant, who plays for Memphis Grizzlies. A lot of people are comparing him to Allen Iverson. Both thin. He's a lot taller than Allen Iverson, but just the quickness. People have to make comparisons.
Hey, so number 1, I said it last week, Chris Jackson, LSU. Man, he was, and I'm not just talking. People who were around could tell you that he was probably just as good as Steph. He would have been a Hall of Famer. He would have been a great player in the NBA, but he was standing up for black people's rights back then and got blackballed. But he was a great college player. He was hitting 50.
Yeah,
he was hitting 50 points in college games. I mean, crazy. He was just unstoppable. So today his name is Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. But yeah, those are my top 5: Danny Manning, Kenny Anderson, Stephon Marbury, Allen Iverson, and the great Mahmoud Abdul Rauf.
So if I had to put some honorable mentions, I'd put those in there: Stephon Marbury, Allen Iverson, Chris Jackson. Another player, honorable mention that I'd throw out there that I really liked in college was Rex Chapman.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, Rex Chapman was
I
for
like
Kentucky.
For Colorado, Chauncey.
Oh yeah,
Chauncey
Phillips.
Chauncey.
I remember I told you all about because
I was too. When I first saw that dude, I knew he was special. I mean, because he was at a small school, but man, yeah, he was just so strong. Yeah, and I remember when we first saw, Andre Miller.
Oh,
Utah.
Yeah, Utah.
He was coming off the bench. He was coming off the bench then, and
we knew that he shouldn't have been on the bench.
We knew the first time we saw him. We was like, man, this dude is special. He's a special player.
He was tough.
Good player.
He was tough.
So tell us what you think. I know we probably missed some players. Pat Ewing, he was one of my favorites. Stacey Augmon. I like Larry Johnson too.
A lot of folk might put Christian Laettner in there. I mean, he was
one of the greatest.
He was one of the great college basketball players. Of course, Lou Alcindor. He's a little
Bill
bit before
Walton,
our time and all that.
You got to put Bill Walton, Pistol Pete is part of the greatest college players. You had to name them.
But definitely tell us who your favorite college basketball players of all time. And I guess it doesn't have to be just men or women. Cheryl Miller.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're gonna say
that's why people started watching women's basketball because of Cheryl Miller. Unstoppable.
Cheryl Miller.
Didn't get a chance to play in the WNBA though.
Yeah. What was those teams for Tennessee? Holsclaw. What was it? Mickey Holsclaw and Tamika Catchings.
Yeah. There's some squads. So let us know, women or men. But every single Tuesday, we're putting out new episodes. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chopping It Up with the Cleavers, and make sure you subscribe. And then if you're not on YouTube, tell your friends that we're also, you can check us out on podcasts, most places where you get your podcast. Every Tuesday, Chopping It Up with the Cleavers.
Every Tuesday, check us out. We'll see you next week.
Chop.
Man, don't
Peace.
do that.
What, can't do chop?
I'm of the models, here I am. I come, that's where I'm from, yeah.